welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have an action-packed episode for you today. We have not one, not two, but three guests calling in on the FSR hotline. But before we get to all of that, we want to thank the folks that help make this show possible. Our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. Also, do not forget to check us out on the web. Tons of great things for all of your latest information about the fall sports season. All right. Well, again, I am joined in the studio today with both Wynn Ellington and Jim Clark, our two favorite announcers from our Friday night football games. And before we go into all of the action-packed stuff we have for you, we want to talk about a couple of news and notes. We haven't been doing that segment for a while. We want to add it back in. And all of our news and notes this week coming out of Stonebridge. Lots going on over there. And first of all, congratulations to their quarterback, Patrick Thompson. He has committed to go to Wake Forest to play football next year. He'll be joining his brother, Zach, as well as Mike Olson. And Patrick becomes the fifth Bulldog to commit to an ACC school for next year. Also, congratulations to Richard Sullivan. He is the new head softball coach over at Stonebridge. If the name sounds familiar, that might be because you remember him as the head coach at Marshall's baseball program. Okay, and then finally, congratulations to Jane Windows. She's the new girls soccer coach over at Stonebridge. She's had a lot of success in coaching soccer. She has 3 state championships and will no doubt be looking for more over at Stonebridge. All right, well now we hope to get to one of our call-in guests tonight, the first of many as we have promised. We're going to be joined by Wendell Bird in just a second. And hopefully I can't tell if he's on the line. So guys, I'm very excited about all these guests tonight. We'll have a couple more people to talk with our viewers than just us. So they'll be getting the firsthand expert knowledge. All right, well, on the phone now, we have Wendell Bird. Of course, many of you in the region are familiar with him from his storied career over at South Lakes coaching basketball. Coach, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, Coach, well, a lot of people in the region are familiar with you from coaching over at South Lakes. Now, you are now involved with the Readers or Leaders program you've been involved with since 2003. For the folks at home who aren't familiar with the program, can you tell them a little bit about what that program is geared towards?
Yes, I started Readers or Leaders 5 years ago with the support of David Colburn Foundation, Family Foundation. We have student athletes and elementary school students promoting literacy in our communities. We train student athletes we train student athletes in performing strategies of reading, and they go into the elementary schools and they then support the students with their reading strategies. We do this once a week during the particular season. If it's baseball, it's baseball season. If it's basketball, basketball. We have now about 435 students that have been affiliated with the program throughout the region, Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax County, and Prince William County.
And I understand that you have a big fundraiser coming up on October 20th. Can you tell us a little bit about the fundraiser and what you're hoping to use those funds for?
Yes, the fundraiser is going to be a golf tournament at Reston National on October the 20th. It will be a shotgun start at 1 o'clock, and the funds are being raised for books and incentives for our elementary school students. We give 4 to 5 books during each season to the students that we are working with. We give them T-shirts, we take them on outings, we do a lot of different things for them to keep them motivated to become great readers.
Hello, Coach. This is Wynn Ellington. Is Readers or Leaders open to any athlete from the participating schools, or are there certain requirements that they must meet?
The Readers or Leaders, what I do is I go out to the communities and different high schools and try to find schools that have, they would like to be affiliated with a program like Readers or Leaders, that they have a need in their community. We're trying to address, at the elementary school level, we're trying to address the at-risk readers, the students that really need some additional support. So within the different communities, there are different elementary schools that have students that need that additional support, and we have these student athletes become mentors, and those mentors go into the elementary schools and support them. So to answer your question, I'm always looking for additional schools to render this service to the elementary school students.
And Coach, I know you guys have been doing this program for a while. Do you have an anecdote or some story that you like to share with people to talk a little bit? I've looked at your website and I've seen the amazing statistics, not only about the number of participants that you have, but also the levels of achievement that students have attained. So do you have any stories like that you like to tell about some of the amazing work that the program has done?
Well, the program, it really affects the elementary school student amazingly. They develop a bond with their buddy as soon as they meet them. But a lot of people don't realize how important it is for the student athlete. The student athlete, it's giving back to the community. That's one of the big thrusts. That's why I started it at South Lakes. We wanted to give back to our community because they gave us a lot. But one great story, I think, is with T.C. Williams. T.C. Williams has been affiliated with our program as well. They had great success in their program. One year when they were on their way to getting ready to go to the States, Coach told them to just relax and not go to Readers or Leaders on that particular Wednesday because the guys needed some time off away from everything. Well, he then called the principal to let the principal know that they would not be attending that day. Well, it's amazing. They have an activity bus. The activity bus took all of their athletes to the elementary school, and the principal then called the coach and said, Ivan, your student athletes are here. We thought that they weren't going to be there. Well, the student athletes told the principal that the program meant so much to them and so much to the kids that they were not going to miss an opportunity to share with them. So I think that shows that the student athletes and the elementary school students develop a great bond, and it's a sharing opportunity for both of them.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the wonderful things you've been doing in the community for our young people for so long. Now you can see up on the screen there the information for the fundraiser Readers or Leaders is doing on October 20th, so please go to their website for more information. All right, guys, well, we got the opportunity to cover a great game this past Friday, Centerville versus Robinson. Now, Jim, were you surprised at how close that game was?
Yeah, it was. In fact, I got to hand it to Centerville. Even though they lost the game, I mean, they gave Robinson all they could handle. It looked like they were out of the game, then all of a sudden they come back with 21 unanswered points. And, I think it was Wynn here that says, it's not over till it's over, and he sure was right. It was a heck of a ball game.
It's very prescient, Will, Wynn, that you you thought that they could definitely hang in there. Were you surprised, Wynn, at the fact that Robinson head coach Mark Bendorf was using Michael Lopresti to start out the game at quarterback?
I was surprised about that, and we were not sure. I guess for the reasons he decided to do that. You don't know if he's trying to groom him for next season, but we can always pose that question to Coach Bendorf, and
I have an answer for that. Because I'm a friend with one of the players' dads. And I won't tell you who because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But they put Lopresti in because they wanted to rest Meyer and give him some time because, the season's coming up, give him a little time off. They thought it was going to be an easier game than it was with Centerville. And so when things got a little tough in there, they yanked him and put Meyer back in, which I think was a big mistake. I think that they should have stayed with Lopresti, give him the work back there. He was doing a good job. Sure, he was making some mistakes, but it wasn't his fault. Other people were dropping the ball. If people are dropping the ball on you, I'm sure, he was guilty of that too, but, that was Robinson's fault. That was their problem, and it's been their problem the last two games we've seen them in. It's hanging onto the ball.
All right, well, you heard it here, that up-to-the-minute knowledge, and now we're going to hopefully go into some highlights from the game so that you can see a little bit of what Jim's talking about here.
Yeah, that's Cameron Walter. He did a great job for the at quarterback for Centerville.
And there's a Winton Fox with the run around the right end there. Winton Fox, a definite speedster for the Rams. I think that there was a penalty on that play.
I think he pushed him after he had gone out of bounds.
Yeah. Now there's the touchdown by Robinson. There's Xavier Duncan on the reception from Lopristi.
Yeah.
And he's just wide open down the sideline.
There was nobody around.
I thought they had a good pass game, actually, Jim.
I did too.
And there's that quarterback, Walter, going right up the middle.
I have a hard enough time seeing their number when
Yes,
they're
that is Cam Walter, the quarterback, going right up the middle.
And again, here is Conway. Now, this is a controversial call, and we're going to talk about this later with one of the heads of the Officials Association. But he was given a penalty, a 15-yard penalty for jumping into the end zone. And then afterwards, they argued the play and got another 15 yards, and it was not pretty.
Very tall run by Alex Murray, which sets up this 1-yard touchdown run by Murray. And Robinson, they pretty much they controlled the first half,
they
but
did.
Things changed.
Ooh, as you said, don't count him out. And, they...
Robinson student by there. And, I actually think the score, I'm not surprised that the score was as close as it was, but I'm surprised it was as high scoring as it was. It was a few more touchdowns scored than I expected. That's the replay of that touchdown reception by Duncan that we saw earlier.
Right, as you can see, there was no one around. In fact, he had us fooled. We were looking on the other side of the field, too, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So who is that number 3?
Yeah, senior wide receiver for the Rams. By himself there on the sideline, catches the pass from Lopristi, and then just races 40 yards in.
Of course, Xavier Duncan plays defense, too. He had that big interception last week against Westfield, and then you see him there on the offensive end. And then the 2 running backs for Robinson just have been sensational all season, Alex Murray and Winton Fox.
There's Cam Walter on the touchdown run. Before that was a Winton Fox halfback pass to Donovan Taylor in the end zone, which put the Rams up by 2. Now here's the kid Eckenham fumble return. That's the freshman. Johnny on the spot. He just takes it all the way. 6'1", 200-pound freshman linebacker. We're going to see a lot of him in the coming years.
And there's the word. I tell you what, Walter was the workhorse for Centerville.
Oh, yeah. He's just a
He
junior.
and Conway, but...
You know who else for Centerville I was impressed with was Warren Denny. And there's the Robinson touchdown pass from Meyer to Zanolato on that slant pass just right there, hitting perfectly in stride. He maintains his balance all the way to the end zone. There they converted on the 2-point conversion, went Fox on the reception. And then there's the go-ahead touchdown, Alex Murray up the middle.
Well, Jim, I completely agree with you. I've been so impressed with Cam Walter all season. He was their leading rusher in their loss to Fairfax, and he really is the workhorse. He's a very mobile quarterback and certainly deserves a lot of praise for what he's done for Centerville all season, even though they're having a bit of a tough year.
Well, if you noticed one thing in that, we were talking about Lopristi and all that. If you noticed one thing, when you saw the quarterback get hit behind the line and fumble, that wasn't Lopristi. That was Meyer.
That was Meyer,
so,
right when he came in.
that Robinson, if they want to have any kind of year, have got to stop their fumbling.
Yeah.
It took them totally out of the game with Westfield. I mean, if it wasn't for 2 or 3 fumbles in very key areas, they'd be on top of the list right now.
I tell you, but you know what? The play of that game that put Robinson back in it was after Centerville went ahead 27-19. Robinson was back on offense. They had the Rams pinned back at their goal line, and they just handed it to Alex Murray up the middle, and he went about 55 yards right through the heart of that Centerville defense. Kind of similar to the run we saw in the first half. Broke tackles, then just outran a bunch of Wildcat players before he was brought down. That brought the hope back on the Robinson sideline, and then they were able to, get that touchdown pass from Meyer to Zanolato, and then, later on they got the winning touchdown run by Murray.
Speaking of bringing back the hope, so Oakton Chantilly this week. Oakton looked like they were going to run away with it in the first half, and then Chantilly comes storming back. Another very close game, guys. Were you a little bit surprised at how close this one was?
No, I wasn't. I think Oakton's a good team. Sometimes you have a down week, and Chantilly, they play good ball. They're not a bad team. They just had things not go their way, and this isn't their season, I guess. But they're 0-3 in the district. They're 1-5 right now. But there's still a chance to turn that around and have a pretty decent season.
Yeah, Chantilly, a strong team. I'm not surprised that Oakton won. I expected them to win, But I guess I am. But the thing I am a little bit surprised is after they jumped up to that 17-0 lead, that they allowed Chantilly to come back.
I was going to ask you about that, Wayne, because I know you've been really impressed with the Oakton defense this year. And so, some players have really stood out to you, Jack Tyler amongst them. And so just, some mistakes by Oakton in the second half leading to that 17-15 result. But, a good win for Oakton. As you said, Chantilly's a really good team. And then on the other hand, not a very lopsided, a more lopsided score, sorry about that, in the Westfield-Woodson game. Westfield just ran away with that one.
Well, I kind of half expected that was going to happen. Westfield's a very, very talented team. I've not seen Woodson, so I can't comment. Like I said, there isn't a bad team out there, but Westfield just has all the guns and all the people in the right places, and they play some hard football. Yeah,
they certainly do. They're just reloading. I'm not, I think Woodson is a great program, but we haven't seen them this year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I remember is what they were like last season, but Jim mentioned it. Westfield is just an excellent program, and with Jordan Anderson there putting up another huge night, 183 yards on just 14 carries. Westfield really knows how to just establish control of a ball game. They don't give an underdog much hopes when they play. They're about as sharp a team as they can be.
Yeah, Westfield certainly looking very strong on the season so far. And then finally closing out, guys, Herndon and Fairfax. Now, Fairfax is looking strong the past couple of weeks. Even though they lost to Herndon, we've seen that Herndon team. That's a pretty good Herndon team. So do they have something to be really happy about in that 16-13 loss?
Well, I think, too, these teams start out a little slow, but now they're into the season. They're learning more about their plays. They're feeling more comfortable, and they're playing better football now. We saw, look at West Springfield. They played lousy football their first two games. Now look at them, they're killing everybody. And, it's just, sometimes it takes, luckily, they weren't in district at the time, so, it really doesn't hurt them that bad, maybe a little bit in the power rating or whatever. But, they're coming back. They've had those games, and they're tuned up, and, welcome. They don't have the luxury like the pros of having 4, tune-up games.
Right. All right, well, let's take a look now at what the standings look like in the Concord district. Wynn, if you want to take us through them.
All right, Westfield on top, 2-0 in the district, 6-0 overall. Followed by Oakton, identical record, 2-0 and 6-0. Herndon with the win over Fairfax, 2-1 in the district, 4-2 overall. Robinson at 1-1 in the district, 3-3 overall. Chantilly, 1-2 in the district, 4-2 overall. Fairfax, 1-2 in the district, 3-3 overall. And at the bottom, Centerville, 0-3 in the district, 1-5 overall.
Okay, and before we leave the Concord district, we want to congratulate our Concord District Player of the Week. I've already mentioned his name, but of course it is Oakton's Jack Tyler having the big defensive effort against Chantilly. A huge reason that Chantilly was scoreless in the first half. He had a key interception last week against Langley, having a very strong season so far. So we're looking for more big things out of Jack Tyler as the season progresses. All right, well, now we're hoping to go to another one of our call-in guests, and this is a very special guest that we have for you because, as Jim already alluded to, we had a controversial call in the game, and Jim, right. I know, that, and I agree with you, but if you want to talk a little bit more.
Well, I don't, first of all, we're going to talk with Dennis Hall, who's are you there, Dennis?
Yeah, I don't think we have
Okay, he's not there yet. But we're going to talk with Dennis, and I don't want to go into specific calls because they're all judgment calls. And I will tell you right off the bat that the people that work for NVFOA work very hard to make sure that those kids play a safe, good ball game. No one goes out there with any preconceived notions about a team or a player. In fact, I know guys that don't even read about it just because of that. But, it's a judgment call. There's some things that people don't understand, that sometimes the rules are different from the NFL and college. And, so people have a different reaction sometimes. Right. And that's why we want to talk with Dennis and to see, what the rule is on, the celebration rule. Because, in college a couple weeks ago, there was a big commotion about it, and then last week the fans were not happy, and the coaching staff wasn't happy, and on film it looked like he was just trying to get into the end zone. But there are eyes closer to the field than you and I that saw something, they didn't like it, and he got flagged for it. And do I think sometimes maybe they go a little too far? Maybe. But, that's a judgment call, and that's up to the official. But
Okay, well, while we're still waiting to get Dennis on the line, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Patriot District, and then we'll come back to Dennis. So, Jim, if you want to take us through the standings of what the Patriot District's looking like at the end of Week 6.
All right. Hey, look at West Springfield rising from the bottom. They're at the top now with a 3-0 district record and a 4-2 overall record. South County right up there with them. Yay! Go Stallions. 3-0 district, 4-2 overall. West Potomac, we were counting on them, but last weekend was not a good one for them. They're now 2-1 the district, 5-1 overall. Annandale is 2-1. They're always kind of a quiet stealth team in there. You don't hear much about them, but they're always in the mix. They have a 2-1 district record, 3-3 overall. They're followed by Lake Braddock, 2-1, 3-3. T.C. Williams starting to come alive. They got a beautiful new football field, by the way, over at T.C. Williams, state of the art. And Hayfield and Lee round out the bottom of the Patriot District standings.
All right, guys, so we talked about the fact that there was a huge game. It might have been the biggest game of the week. A lot of people had a lot of buildup, and that was West Springfield, West Potomac. And then after the game was played, people might have been a little surprised about the outcome. What were your thoughts about what happened this past weekend?
Well, my thoughts are just based upon what the score and stats that we saw. What I'm kind of wondering about is if West Potomac is kind of going through a lull right now. The previous week they got Hayfield gave them a really tough game, and I don't know if they were looking ahead to this West Springfield game or not. And I kind of remember last year they kind of had a lull in midweek against Lake Braddock mid-season against Lake Braddock when they lost 41-0. They were able to pick things up towards the end of the season, but a big story here just appears to be the turnovers.
Right.
That's what did them in, and then that West Springfield defense, they shut down Kristen Rodriguez.
Well, that's exactly right, and I agree with you that it does look like something may be going on with West Potomac a little bit, but you certainly do not want to take anything away from the Spartans because this looks to have been their best defensive effort of the season, and their defense is always what gets criticized, and I've been amongst the people criticizing the defense this season.
This is one of the best offenses that they have. It's not as good as Stonebridge's, but this is probably definitely one of the better offenses that they'll face this season, and it was such. They came through. I mean, all those turnovers, and I think they shut down the West Potomac running attack. Still, but it doesn't even look like West Potomac tried to run all that much.
Mm-hmm. Well, and certainly, guys, the fact that West Springfield did this without Scott Van Buren, who is one of their leading defenders, he has a knee injury, and he was on a 3-interception streak before he went out with that injury, and that the defense just rose up. And, some of them have said they won this game for him is very, very impressive. And the big story, Peyton Davey, who had the 4 fumble recoveries. What a great night for that young man.
Right place, right time.
Oh, yeah.
And then Bren Renner, of course, continuing to have the stellar season that he's had so far.
You got to say one thing. Mistakes just don't happen. Mistakes are caused, and they're caused by the defense. They cause them to cough up the ball. So, that's why West Springfield, they're on a mission. They started out, and I think they're so unhappy with the way they started out to resurrect this season. Like I said, they're on a mission, and I think they're going to go all the way for the rest of the season without a loss.
And another impressive aspect of this game, I think the balance in the West Springfield offense. They got Brandon Bailey back, but even when they had Dan Collins, he did excellent. But Brandon Bailey, 179 yards on 28 carries. So, when you got balance on offense, that's hard to defend against.
Well, the running game, absolutely, and then the passing game as well. There are so many wide receivers over at West Springfield. It seems like every week. I mean, certainly Andy Stallings has just had an amazing season so far, but there's Fabrice Kambinga, there's O'Connell. You just never know who Bren Renner is going to go to, and that's one of the secrets of their success is that he has so many offensive options.
His numbers were a little bit down in this game. He's still great numbers. But compared to what it has been in previous games, 11 of 31 for 247 yards. Like I said, still great numbers, but he just put up such great, his expectations are so high.
Right. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the season finishes out with those two teams that have been battling it out.
It's always interesting when high school players get on the football field. You never know what's going to happen, and that's why I love the sport so much.
Well, and then, lastly about this too, I mean, building off something you were saying earlier, Jim, certainly that adversity earlier on in the season, coaches always say that playing those tough games, putting players in difficult situations, it always comes back and pays off. And so West Springfield had the tough going in the early season. That's when you want to have it, not when you're getting into the playoffs and the end of the season.
Sure. I mean, you got all these kids that you got to get to, from all these different lifestyles, and you get them together, and it takes a couple of games to get the edges out. And these little scrimmage games they have before, those are fine. But once you get the uniform on and you get out there, things just start going on in your head, and you get the butterflies, and you got to work out those kinks. And I think they've done a great job of it. They found out what their problems were. They have corrected it immediately, and I think they're on their way to a really, really, really good season this year.
All right, well, as promised, now we have another one of our guests on the phone, Dennis Hall from the Northern Virginia Football Officials Association. Dennis, can you hear us?
I sure can.
Hey, Dennis, how are you today?
I'm fine, Jim. How are you doing?
Pretty good. First of all, real quickly, tell us a little bit about NVFOA. How many members do you have, some of the districts that you take care of, things like that?
Sure. Northern Virginia Football Officials have been around since 1947. We do everything in Northern Virginia, as by our name. We also do Prince William County, Loudoun County, City of Winchester, City of Alexandria, County of Arlington. We have 81 contracts. And we do about everybody you can get a hold of.
Well, first of all, if you want to become a member, Dennis, very quickly, how do you go about doing that?
A real strict criteria. You have to be 18 years old. That's about it.
Well, we know you don't have too strict a criteria because you let me in for a while. So, but I think you probably toughened your standards since, I'm sure.
Not really.
Well, Dennis, one of the things that has been bothering our fans out there, and Lord knows we don't want to bother them much, but is the celebration rule.
Sure.
Explain that to us.
Well, it's really, you can't call it a celebration rule. It all comes under the unsportsmanlike conduct rule. And you have to realize that, first of all, high school football is the only true form of football left. Pro football and Division I college football are strictly entertainment. If you know the rules of the game, you'll see them breaking rules every day, every game. Nobody really worried about it. So high school football is based on unfair advantage and safety, which it should be. So when you get under unsportsmanlike, and everybody thinks unsportsmanlike has to be a very evil action because of the term unsportsmanlike, and not necessarily. Anything that demeans the other team, anything that is overzealous, anything that looks rehearsed or choreographed, anything to draw attention to yourself. That's what people are calling excessive celebration. There really isn't a term in the rules about excessive celebration. It's just a catch-all phrase to make it easier than trying to explain everything. So.
All right. Well, and it's basically comes down to a judgment call. What the official sees on the field. Right. What leads up to it. He has a better view than everybody else, and if they feel necessary to call it, then they do that. Correct.
Right. I just had a film sent to me that somebody wanted me to look at. It happened in the game last Friday, and I told the person, I said, yes, they did that, but I can't tell you why. I have to be down on the field level to look at that. There was a player coming in, and maybe it caused this person to do what he did. So he could have been avoiding a tackler. And that's basically what the on-field official has to judge at that point in time. We're not trying to take celebration out of the game in no way, shape, or form. You do something, you should be excited about it. But what they've got to remember is football is a team sport. Usually because you were able to do something, it's because one of your teammates allowed you to do that by making a block or getting in somebody's way or something. So it is a team sport. Everything that happens occurs because of an entire team.
So I guess, Dennis, if someone has a cell phone hidden by the goalpost and they pick it up after they score a touchdown, they might get flagged for that?
I can almost guarantee that.
I could probably even call that one.
Yeah. Anything. It started years ago, and I've been doing this 37 years, and I can remember when players used to start turning around and waving the football in the face of the guy who was trying to tackle him. I think that's where it really came about to get enforced. Right. And that is demeaning to a guy. It says, hey, look at us, we're beating the daylights out of you, or whatever. Yeah. And it's kind of escalated. Now the athletes in high school today, they're seeing all this shenanigans that the pros and the college players are doing. The rules are there to prevent it, but they think that is part of the entertainment now. So they're not going to call that. Sure. You don't want that in high school. No. And the lower divisions in college, their officials have to call certain things, but the big Division I officials, the guys who make the big bucks, they're not chastised or criticized, or they won't lose their schedule because they don't call something. Although you had that situation in the Washington game, those officials called it by the book, and they took so much heat across the nation. But what are they supposed to do? The book says you will hand the ball to an official or you will lay it down.
Hey, and you guys follow the rules, and you do a great job of it every week. And as I was saying earlier while we were trying to get you on the phone, that you guys don't go out there with any preconceived notions. You go out there to make sure that each one of those kids have a good, fair time.
That's our goal. Like I said, is safety and unfair advantage. That's all we really are concerned with.
Well, you guys do a great.
Sometimes we're chastised, and sometimes we make mistakes. We're human, and we don't have 16 cameras around there that they can go back and rely on. So,
Dennis, keep up the good work, and we hope to have you on again real soon. And again, the address or the email address and your phone number is up on the screen, so we can, if you'd like to become a member, contact Dennis, and they'll take real good care of you and train you real good too.
We pride ourselves in our training. Our training actually starts early. We start in June, so by the time the season gets here, you are prepared.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and have a great season. All right, buddy?
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, 28 years of experience. That is a long time on the sidelines. So, but all right, so you heard it here, some inside knowledge from the officials, from the official crews that do the games every week, and certainly we couldn't have these games without them. And they always say they're certainly not doing that for the money. They're doing it for the love of the game and for the kids out there, and they do a great job. All right, well, guys, let's jump back into the Patriot District now. I want to talk about one more of the teams this week. Annandale squeaked by Hayfield, and certainly, as you said, Jim, they seem to fly under the radar a little bit, but a very good club over there at Annandale.
Oh, yeah, they're well coached over there. I can't remember the coach's name.
Dick Adams.
Dick Adams, thank you. Great guy, loves his kids, takes care of those kids like they're his own. Has a wonderful program over there. I can't say anything nicer about those guys.
All right, well, let's now take a look at our Patriot District Player of the Week. You probably won't be surprised if you want to announce it for us.
All right, our Patriot District Player of the Week, a junior from the West Springfield Spartans, linebacker Peyton Davey. He recovered 4 fumbles. The defense forced 13 turnovers overall, but that was the story of the Spartans win, as we mentioned earlier. And Peyton Davey, he had a lot to do with it.
Okay, well, moving right along, we now have our third and final guest on the line tonight. It is Coach Diane Miller from the Lake Braddock field hockey team. Coach Miller, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for joining us. I know that you guys had a very exciting game last night, 3-2 win over South County. I know it was probably a little closer than you would have liked for it to be. What were the keys to your team coming out with the victory last night?
Well, South County came back and played a good game. We were up 2-0, and they came back and scored 2 quick goals. But, the good thing about my team, I have 12 seniors, and they just don't give up, and they just kind of gutted it out, I think, is the way to put it. South County was a really good team, and, my kids just didn't give up. I think after being up 2-0 and they getting tied up, it's easy for kids to just say, oh, I can't do it anymore, but they just didn't do that. So I was really pleased with, how they hung in there after the 2 quick goals by South County.
And certainly your team now is 15-0 on the season so far, having a very good year so far. But what things are you looking for your team to improve upon as you head into the Patriot District Tournament?
Well, I think they have to realize that, they're fortunate to have that record, and, everybody wants to beat them. And if they don't play up to the level of every team, some team's just going to sneak in there. And, I just think we have to keep conditioning. We're in very good shape. And, the things that I get on them about really is I've always felt that you win games by perfecting your basic skills. And I think that, we just have to keep working on our basic skills and executing those in the games. And sometimes, we tend to forget, what the basic skills are. So, but, the kids are playing well together, and we've had a couple of injuries, and, but they've overcome that. And, they just have to keep practicing hard and coming out every day with a positive attitude and know that they have to play at a high level, each game.
Coach Miller, hello. This is Win Ellington. I understand that you recently reached a major coaching milestone, winning your 400th game. To what do you attribute having such consistent success over the past 28 seasons?
Well, I honestly have to say there's a lot of years I've considered retiring. And I always thought I'd retire, every year. But first of all, my children, I have 21-year-old twins, and every year they're like, Mom, you can't quit. You got a couple more years. You can retire. But they've been big supporters. But I honestly have to say I've been very fortunate, like Braddock. The administration, ever since I've been there, have just been great. They've been very supportive of field hockey. And I really am fortunate with the parents that I deal with, and of course the players. I mean, I have to admit I've been very spoiled there. I've made a lot of good friends, and the parents. The good thing about field hockey is, a lot of parents don't understand the game. It's new to them, and they don't really. I think in other sports, coaches get a little hassled. And I don't really get that. I think maybe because the parents don't understand the game. But, and I hate to say that. Hockey has come a long way in the last 28 years. But I just, I don't think if I hadn't had the support of the administrators, the parents, and then had the players I've had, I don't think I would have lasted this long coaching. And there were years, trust me, that I thought, okay, I'm going to quit. I can't handle this anymore. And then, of course, games like last night, where it's so close. I just told the kids, I said, I'm getting too old for this. I can't handle these close games anymore. So, but this year's group too is very, it's a special group of kids. There's 5 seniors who have been on the team since they were sophomores, and they have just done everything they could do to get better. And now their play and their attitude is kind of infectious with the rest of the team, and they just don't want to lose. And so, when you get kids like that, it's hard to walk away from it. I'm sure when the time comes, it's going to be very difficult for me to walk away. But there is a time that's going to happen. and the 400 thing, I totally had forgotten about it. I remember back in July, someone asked, well, back in the 90s, our AD was going to do this new thing, and he asked me what my record was, and I said, well, I don't know, because I never kept track. And he had people look it up, and then at the sports banquet that year, he gives me this plaque. It's a 100-win club thing, and he had the record on there. So they said keep track every year. And so this summer, I remember some parent asking me what my record was, and I have it on this little card at home. So I looked it up and I told him, and then I totally forgot about it. So when we won that game at Herndon, I was really surprised. They had this big sign. The father threw ice-cold water on me, so I said, your daughters are going to be running extra laps for that. But I mean, it was very nice. They recognized it. But I think without support, I would have never lasted that long. And I'm going to retire in a couple of years. Let me just let everybody know that I'm going to retire.
All right, Coach Miller, how you doing? Jim Clark here. Bruin Booster. My son's in sophomore at Lake Braddock.
What's your last name?
Clark. Marius?
I teach sophomores.
Marius Clark is my son there. But you do a great job there, and I've been doing some PA announcing for you guys for a while, and I've just heard wonderful things about you. And I just want to thank you personally for the great job you do over there at Lake Braddock.
Well, thank you very much. That's really nice. See, that's it. That's the kind of parent you have at Lake Braddock. They're very grateful, and they're very supportive. So people like you, I don't think coaches would stay around as long if there weren't parents like you. I know other coaches who are like, I can't handle it. So
yeah, well, I don't. My son hasn't played field hockey, and I've not had to, the opportunity to meet with you. But I got to tell you, the staff that they put together, coaching wise, in all sports over there, basketball, football,
right?
They have the kids in best interest in mind, way above how many games they're going to win, how many they're going to lose. They care about those kids, and they take real good care of them.
Yeah, well, I wish I had your son because then I'd automatically pass him in driver's ed, but I don't have your son this year.
I'm not allowing my son to take driver's ed until he's 50.
All right. Well, Coach Miller, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we definitely look forward to continuing to watch your team throughout the remainder of the season.
Well, thanks for having me on.
All right, guys. So that's it for the Patriot District, getting a little field hockey news in here for the week. But let's shift gears now back to football and talk a little bit about the Liberty District. And let's take a look at what the standings look like now that we have finished week 6. So Hopefully that will be up just very quickly. And Stonebridge still on top of the district, 6-0, 3-0 in the district, followed by Woodson and Madison with identical records there. And then Langley, a couple of tough weeks. They're 2-1 in the district, 3-3 overall. Marshall at 1-2. And then South Lakes, Thomas Jefferson, and McLean all 0-3 in the district. All right, guys, one of the big games this week, of course, the Stonebridge game. And Stonebridge just running away with the game again.
Well, I don't know how big of a game it was considering it, Monica.
They're all big games.
You're right. These kids are all big games.
Thank
God
you.
bless them.
But anyway, once again, great effort, great results by Stonebridge, and I'm sure great effort by South Lakes. It seems like defense was really the key throughout the whole northern region this week. There was some especially great defensive play, and it looks like Brian Slade, the North Carolina State commit, did especially well. Stonebridge only allowed 65 yards of total offense, throughout the whole night, and 3 yards rushing on 24 attempts, which is even more impressive. A steel curtain at Stonebridge, definitely.
No, they're doing a great job at Stonebridge. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my only thing is not with them, it's with where they're placed, and that has nothing to do with the kids, the coaches, or anything. But, I just think if one team has a chance with them, it's going to be Madison. Because I think Madison is starting to crank up. They've got, they've worked out the rough spots. They're starting to build now. They're on the, we'll find, I think, a little later that they've made the top 10. Haven't they? I can't remember. I'm an older man. I can't remember anything that happened yesterday.
That just encourages our viewers to stay tuned to see.
But still, I think Madison's the only one that's going to give them a hard time. If they do, I'm not even saying that's going to happen, but they're the only one that's likely to give them any problems for the rest of the season.
Well, and we talked about the fact that West Springfield, or I guess I talked about the fact that West Springfield, they have so many offensive options over there. And that's just the story for Stonebridge as well. There's so many offensive options. We've talked about Allen. We've talked about Prince. And then on the defense, it just seems like everyone in their unit is very strong and always, putting up a great effort for them. I think in their past few games, they haven't allowed more than 13 points, which is which is pretty good. And the fact that their offense is putting up over about 50 points per game for the past few games is very, very impressive. So Stonebridge looking very strong. I think next week they have Langley, so it's going to be a tough game for the Saxons to rebound on.
I think one thing that puts Stonebridge at a disadvantage is they're playing, and I don't mean to minimize what any team does out there, but they're playing teams that aren't as strong as they are. They just don't have the resources that Stonebridge has, and that's unfortunate. So when they start playing these teams that aren't as tough, and they play them for 5, 6, 7 weeks, and then all of a sudden they come head up against a West Springfield team that's gotten back on track, or a Westfield's team. They got a new bull in the pen, and it's a little harder to take down than the last couple bulls that they fought.
Well, guys, maybe the bigger game than the week in the Liberty District, since I've been called out on that, was the Madison-Langley game.
Oh, that game, no, I just
So, guys, Madison won. Langley has been struggling for a while. What do you think Langley needs to do to right their ship a little bit? They've got Stonebridge next week, so that's going to be tough. But they've had their quarterback being out, of course.
Sure, I think that's a big part of it. I think, we talked about this when he came in right after their first-string quarterback was injured. He came in. I think that was why he was so good at that point. He had no chance to think about it. He just went out there and did it. Now he's had time to think about it and overanalyze what he's doing and things like that. He's a good quarterback. I saw him, and he keep working. He's going to be ready for next year and have a great season. But it's just. Hey, that's the breaks. That's what makes injuries. That's what happens, in football teams. Something could happen to Stonebridge next week. Somebody could go down, and that could be the end of it, Their quarterback, whatever. We hope that never happens, but that's the game. And, unfortunately, it happened to Langley. They lost their starting quarterback, and things haven't been good since.
Part of what Langley's, problems were, they did have to play Oakton, one of the top teams in the whole northern region. Oakton, I'm surprised they weren't more competitive against Oakton, but they just, they obviously gave Madison a good game. And, I did not expect this to be a high-scoring game. And I do agree that having Danny Pritchett out does hurt them. But, a great effort by Madison as well. Madison winning 4 straight since dropping their first 2. Quarterback Will Clarkson, 10 of 16 for 93 yards. Not a whole lot, but in that second half, he was 9 for 9. Hard to get more accurate than that. And going back to Langley quarterback Patrick Kelly, he only threw for 88 yards. I mean, this was not this was not an aired out type game, as you can see. But good game also by Madison Sasha Vandeloff. That's just what a lot of these Liberty District games are. It's just tough, hard fought, low scoring games, and they just fell short.
Hey, and please disregard anything I said about the top 10 standings.
Okay. Again, that just encourages our viewers to stay tuned.
That's right. They're coming up real soon, so don't
how
leave
it's
those
going to
seats.
turn out. All right, but before we leave the Liberty District, let's take a look at our Liberty District Player of the Week. Jim, if you want to take us through this one.
Sacha Vandelov of Madison, senior. He's a senior. He had stats 20 carries for 99 yards, 2 TDs, and the TDs both in the third and fourth quarter.
All right.
Congratulations.
All right, so we are now to our last district this week, the National District. And so let's take a look at the National District standings so you can see how that district has shaped up over 6 weeks of play. Win, if you want to take us through them.
All right. With a familiar spot at the top, the Edison Eagles, 3-0 in the district, 6-0 overall, followed by Yorktown, 2-1 in the district, 4-2 overall. The Mount Vernon Majors come in at third, also at 2-1 and 4-2. And then here's the latter half. Washington and Lee, 1-1 in the district, 3-3 overall. Wakefield, also 1-1 in the district, overall 2-4. Jeff Stewart, 0-2 in the district, 1-5 overall. And then Falls Church, 0-3 in the district, 0-6 overall.
Okay, guys. Well, of course, the big game of the week this week in the National District was Edison versus Yorktown. That was the matchup of somewhat of the 2 marquee teams in the National District. And it just didn't end up being the offensive
team, huh?
but, the battle that we thought it was going to be.
Sure.
So guys, this Edison team looks so strong right now.
They do. They're doing all the right things. They're healthy. They're like I said, they got past those first 2 rough games. They're doing well. I think their competition in that league is kind of like the Stonebridge thing in their league. But I think they got a great football team, and they got some great games coming up, and I think they're going to do well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim, about the competition aspect of it. Edison, has proven by far to be the superior team in that league. I'm a little bit surprised that Yorktown didn't hold them to a closer game, but it is. But credit Coach Vaughn Lewis over there. He has just really built a complete program, a nice combination of speed and strength. You don't really think of Edison as being a big bulky size team, but you do think of them as having a lot of strength and quickness. We saw that in the game against South County, that really good defensive line they had, and excellent game both offensively and defense. They got a lot of players in there rushing, rushing the ball for them. A lot of Angus Harper once again with a big night, but he wasn't the only one who had a big night carrying the ball. And then defense too. We don't have any individual defensive statistics, but they forced 4 turnovers and they held Yorktown's very talented Kyle Toulouse in check, and they just have that killer instinct. They play like they're the underdog, and that's one thing I do. They always play like they're the contender, and that's one thing that I really do like about this Edison program.
Well, and I agree with you, Wen, because the defense definitely had a big night holding Toulouse to limited yardage, around 80-plus yards for Toulouse, which is not his normal figures. And certainly the one thing that Yorktown does have to worry about, people certainly know by now that he is their big player, and that was their big concern, that people would really just start focusing on him. And they're still looking for those support players around him. But you have to credit the Edison defense for what they've done so far.
It would be interesting, though, to see Edison play a team outside of that conference later in the year to see where they are. I think we'd get a better judgment. It's just the other schools, they have fine teams, fine athletes. They just don't have as big a pool to get players from. Most of their players that live in their district are soccer players. And, they have small teams, but they put together a wonderful program. They have a great time, and that's what this is all about anyway.
You know, I did not see the game, but it just appears that what I believe the game of the year so far has to have been that Edison West Springfield game earlier in the season with Edison winning 35-34, and that's a long time rival. The schools are fairly close to each other, but I'd like to see how Edison. I think Edison and Westfield would be particularly good because Westfield has that speed element. They have that speed element too, and I just think that'd be
maybe we could get together and promote a
rematch.
win
a Jimbo.
Have the Fairfax Sports Report Bowl where we pit those two teams against them.
We could get West Springfield and Edison back together at the end of the season to see how they both have improved.
I want to see Edison and Westfield, not Springfield.
Yeah. Oh, Westfield, sorry, yes, but that game when
just go West, Edison.
You're exactly. I completely agree with you, Wayne. And even after that game, Vaughn Lewis, who's coached a lot of football, said that was the most exciting game he thought he'd been involved with. And that's some pretty significant praise from someone like Vaughn Lewis, who has been involved with a lot of really exciting games and has had a ton of exciting players over there at Edison over the years.
Let me tell you, there's nothing more exciting than a great high school football game on a Friday night. I don't care what it is. I mean, like you said, that West Springfield Edison game, just electricity. It's a great time, and I love it when that happens.
Better than Blues Brothers reruns?
Well, no, but
Animal House reruns?
All right.
Which reruns?
Animal House.
Well. Let's take a look now at our National District Player of the Week. This week, it is a player from Washington and Lee, Charles Fuller, having a great year for them over there. 120 yards rushing this past week in their big win over Falls Church on the season. He's had 646 yards rushing, 8 rushing touchdowns. He's played a little quarterback as well, so he's just another one of these players in the district that plays at multiple positions and does basically whatever it is that his team needs for him to do. All right, guys. Well,
you're like Sherlock Holmes coming up with these stats here.
I'm really good at my research. That's what I add to the show. All right. Well, now the long-awaited top 10, right? I feel like there's been a big build-up for this show.
I've been waiting with bated breath.
All right, so let's now unveil our FSR top 10 of the week so you can see how we believe that the standings have played out. And Jim, I think you should have the honors here.
All right, there's a little lead in. Stonebridge, number 1. They were number 1 last week, followed by Westfield, who moved from number 4 to number 2. Oakton dropped from 2 to 3. Edison dropped from 3 to 4. West Springfield stayed even at 5. Chantilly went up a notch from 7 to 6. Robinson went from 8 to 7. And South County making a big leap there, 2 spots from 10 to 8. West Potomac dropped from 6 to 9. And welcome to the top 10, my good friends at Madison. I don't have any friends at Madison, but they're my good friends now.
We'll have to have someone on the show to.
They got a great coach over there. Great coach, Gordon Lieb, is it?
Lieb, yep.
Yeah, great guy.
All right, so you see we had one addition to the top 10 this week and a little movement based on how the games broke down this past Friday. All right, but that was last Friday. Now let's move ahead just a little bit. And first of all, guys, we're going to start something new this week. We're going to take a look at the power rankings from the Virginia High School League and see how they have a very intricate system here. And so up on the screen here, we have the Division 6 rankings if you want to take us through them. And if there's anything, since you don't do these calculations in your head, every day, anything that surprised you a little bit.
I rely on guts, not calculations.
Well, I got a pretty good gut, so I must be doing well.
I'm an emotional guy here. All right, number 1, Oakton with 30.0, Westfield 29.7, Chantilly 26.3, West Potomac also at 26.3, West Springfield, same in the rankings, same in the PowerPoints, 26.0 at 5, South County 23.7 at 6, the Woodson Cavaliers 23.2 at 7, Langley at straight up 23, number 8, Herndon 22.8, number 9, and then the Fairfax Rebels, number 10, 22.7.
I might add that if you're wondering how these ratings are, it's on games won It has nothing to do with how many points scored and on the toughness of the schedule. So that's the criteria that they use.
Which a lot of people don't know. So when
Yeah.
they see things like this, they might be surprised that this is how the breakdown is, but they have very definite criteria, and that's just how,
That's
how
why I have a
broken
little
down.
bit of problem a couple weeks ago with somebody getting beat 63-0 and then going trying for an onside kick and all that. Never mind. So, but
All right, well, now let's take a look at the Division 5 PowerPoint rankings here. And Jim, if you want to take us through these.
all right, believe it or not, Edison is on top over Stonebridge, and again, that reverts back to the weakness of schedule. And they're close though, followed by Yorktown. There's a surprise. Madison, Mount Vernon, Marshall, Washington Lee, Wakefield, Lee, and Hayfield. So one thing that comes to mind here is look at the teams in Division 6 compared to Division 5. Just a lot stronger teams there. Like I said, Mount Vernon, Marshall, Washington Lee, they're just not real big, powerful teams. But, with the competition amongst themselves, they have a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, definitely so.
All right, guys. Well, before we go, really quickly, we have a couple of games that your expert knowledge. I want to know who you guys have in some of the bigger games this week. So first of all, Chantilly at Robinson. Chantilly had a little bit of a rough week last week. Who you got, Win?
Chantilly rebounds at Robinson.
I agree too. Robinson they got to put some stickum on their hands or something. They have fumbleitis over there, and someone needs to give them a shot.
Well, I agree with you guys. I think Chantilly's coming out with the win there. Now, guys, game I'm really excited about is Madison at Woodson. Jim, who do you think's going to win that one?
I think Madison is on the way up. I have not seen Woodson, so I'm not saying I can't make a prediction. But seeing what Madison's done over the last few weeks, I'm going to go with them.
Jim, I'm afraid I'm going to have to differ with you, my friend. Woodson's going to take that top 10 slot and be back in it next week. They'll rebound against Westfield, against Madison, but it won't be easy.
All right, well, I am going to break the tie here, and I select Madison this week. I think Madison is going to have the big win. I don't know that I would be that excited, Jim, that I would agree with you, because I haven't been very good at this so far on the
I haven't
season,
either.
but-
So actually, usually the
Close
team
together.
that I pick better plan on having a bad day because I'm not doing real well.
All right, guys, what about Herndon at Yorktown? Yorktown with the huge loss last week to Edison. Win, do you think they'll rebound?
I do not think they'll rebound. I think the Hornets will sting again.
And who you got, went at Jim in the
I'm
Herndon?
going to
and
go with Yorktown. I think Yorktown will come in and take care of it.
All right, well, I'm going to pick Herndon on that game. All right, and closing out, guys, South County at West Springfield. Another one of the teams in the Patriot District that could challenge West Springfield. Win, who you got in South County at West Springfield?
These two teams have really been playing well lately. West Springfield avenges from last year's loss to South County.
What do you think, Jim?
I'm going to go with West Springfield. There's too many Wests around here. I'm going to go with West Springfield. I just think they're a too powerful club. I wish the best for South County. They're in my area too, so it's kind of hard to pick. But I think West Springfield.
I agree with you, Jim. I'm going with West Springfield as well. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've had an action-packed episode. And before we go, of course, we do want to thank again our friends at CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257. And again, do not forget to check us out on the web at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.